And I'm going to first do because I'll be joining the judges for part of their time. I'm on for thought for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and there's actually a few quotes I got here today. Everybody know what today is?
Earth Day.
Earth Day.
Exactly. So an Earth Day, just a few facts, started in 1970. It became a global holiday in 1990, and it's considered to be now the largest global secular holiday on planet Earth. And here's a few quotes. First from Chief Seattle. You've probably heard something like this, that humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Mahatma Gandhi said that Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. And then I thought this little from Lord Byron, poet, said, there is a pleasure in the pathless woods. There's a rapture on the lonely shore. There's society where none intrudes by the deep sea and music in its roar. I love not man the less, but nature more. I thought that was kind of a nice line from him. Anyway, that's thought for the day. But the other thought for the day is that we've got we've got more than 4 high schoolers here, but we have 4 high schoolers here who are going to speak to the 4-way test. Most of you probably are familiar with the contest. The students have chosen a topic of interest to them. Each one has chosen a topic of interest to him or herself, themselves, and has to run that topic or issue, kind of evaluate it against the 4-way test, to each prong of the 4-way test. So, is it the truth? Is it fair? Goodwill, friendships, benefit all, to see whether or not it passes that test. And for some of them, in some cases, it may pass all 4, it may pass none of the 4, it may pass some of the 4, but that's basically how they construct the speech. Carrie Killen, I want to thank, Principal Carrie Killen, who, especially being situated there at South, was instrumental in helping to coordinate getting students recruited and coordinating the school level contest. Thank you, Carrie. And she was one of 3 judges that then brought the kids forth to this point. And we have 3 judges, new judges, Nancy Meyer and Grace and Susie, who after the 4th speech, I will attempt to put into a breakout room and then join them for a bit of it. I'll be doing the timing. The speeches have to be no less than 5, no more than 7 minutes. Otherwise, they lose points. And for those of you who are not judges, the way they'll be judged is basically, well, partly are they stay within the time. How do they incorporate the 4-way test? The organization of their speech, the content of their speech, and their delivery. Those are all the components by which 100 points are judged. And the club is going to be awarding a $250 check for the winner, a $150 check for second place, and $50 each for the 2 runners-up. And we've been told just recently that not only our first place, but we can send our first and second place, I believe, I'll confirm that, but our first and second place winners to the area level. And then from the area level, there'll be a winner, and I think there's something like 5 areas or something, and then they'll go on to the district to compete for thousands of dollars. Any questions from the gallery about how the contest is before we actually start hearing the kids speak? Okay, well then, our first, we're going to be going in this order. Kaylin Stewart is going to be our first speaker, followed by Victor Dawson, followed by Walker Shado.
Yeah.
Got that right? Okay, followed by Sarah Kahn. And in between, you know, there'll just be a thank you for the one and introduce the next. And we'll just kind of go rapid fire. Judges, are you ready? Okay, so they'll be taking notes and kind of filling out their scorecards. And then again, I'll be doing the timing. And so Kaylin, as soon as you start speaking, I will start the time.
Okay. Did you know that out of 2.2 million people who have been arrested in the United States criminal justice system, 500,000 of them are being detained for drug offenses? Think about that. That is more than 1/4 of the amount of people being locked up. To add on to that, the majority of the 500,000 people are being arrested for drug possession, a non-violent crime. There are 191,000 people locked up in state prison, 157,000 people in local jails, and 100,000 people in federal prison, for which 22,000 are not yet convicted. As a result of these arrests, there are at least 137,000 men and women behind bars. Given the information I presented above, we are going to use Rotary's 4-way test to help us answer the question of, should the United States decriminalize the use and possession of drugs? Number 1, is it the truth? Yes. The truth is that there are many people out there who've been arrested for drug possession without getting the help they need. Neil Scott, a man from New Orleans, had been arrested many times over the years for drug possession. Neil had said that he was never offered treatment for his drug dependence. Instead, the justice system gave him time behind bars. In May 2015, Neil was arrested once again, but this time it was different. Neil was homeless and struggled with health issues that made it so he was in need of routine hospitalization. Due to Neil not being able to afford his bond of $2,200, he spent months in prison. Neil eventually pled guilty, which caused him to face 20 years in prison. Neil is just one of the many people who have been arrested for drug possession without getting the help they need. If we, the United States of America, decided to decriminalize the use and possession of drugs, then we may actually see significant change within our country. Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Let's think about that. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the United States is spending over $80 billion each year to keep roughly 2.2 million people locked up. Around the country, Black adults are accounted for adults are more than 2.5 times as likely as white adults to be arrested for drug possession. In 2014, Black adults accounted for just 14% of those who were arrested, 14% of those who used drugs, and around 1/3 of those who were arrested for drug possession. Say the United States did decriminalize the use and possession of drugs, then could we possibly see significant change within how we treat people? Maybe we can even spend less money on keeping people locked up and more money on helping those who have been affected by drugs. As of right now, I do not think that locking people up for drug possession is a fair thing to do, especially when the majority of those people are people of color. We know we need a change, and we have to do something about it. I truly believe that decriminalizing use and possession of drugs will help save lives and hopefully build fairness within the community. Moving on to number 3, will build goodwill and better friendship. The maximum penalty for drug possession on state and abuse on the state charge is 2 years or a fine of $2,200, while on a federal level it is 7 years. Even lower ranked drugs such as marijuana is illegal on federal level. Decriminalizing drugs could help build friendship and goodwill within different communities and even better within the country. The reason for this is that with decriminalization, there comes better resources. Whether it be counselors, therapists, rehabilitation centers, or even just family and friends, you can get the help you need. They are there for you. The resources are helping you build better friendships within yourself and the world around you. Finally, number 4, will be beneficial to all concerned. Think about this. If the United States decide to decriminalize or even lessen the consequences of drugs, then people might actually seek help when needed, or better yet, the rate of drug use and overdose may decrease significantly. The idea of having overdose rates go down in the United States is something I'm sure most people want. It's something I want. Not only will we see less people dying from an overdose, but we'll hopefully see significant change within our country. The more we try to educate and decrease the consequences on drugs, the more resources come into play. Let's take Portugal, for instance. Portugal decriminalized the use and possession of drugs in 2001. Since then, the rates of drug use and overdose rates have gone down. HIV diagnosis and mass incarcerations have all decreased significantly since they changed. I would love to see our country have a positive impact on fighting for safety of drugs. Wouldn't you? I ask you now to take a moment to think of one person you knew or know currently that has struggled with drug addiction. Now, think to yourself, what is it that you wanted for them? Did you think they should be locked up? Or did you think to yourself, they should get all the help they need to help break the cycle of addiction? You know when people say to not do something, and you're like, ooh, but now I really want to do it? Well, you're not alone on that. Telling someone not to do something definitely will not stop them, but asking them for help if they need it and offering your help could potentially save someone's life. After reflecting on what I have presented and worked on with the 4-way test, I hope you now take these questions into consideration for should the United States decriminalize the use and possession of drugs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kaylin. Appreciate that. It was a very important topic. We are going to just continue on through. I'm just going to talk for a couple seconds to give our judges a little bit of time to sort of capture any notes and things like that before Victor leaving the on deck circle and walking up to the plate. And Victor, you feel like you're ready to go? Okay. And judges, maybe you can give me a thumbs up when you feel like you're ready for the next speaker. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up 1, thumbs up 2, thumbs up 3. Okay, Victor, then when you start speaking, I will start the time.
Just really quick, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Victor Docine. I'm a junior from South Eugene High School, and I apologize if there are sounds around because there is construction going on right outside my house. I'm going to be talking about how I feel like some students at my high school don't get enough sleep because of the school schedule. And the name of my speech is called 5 More Minutes, Please. If there's one thing that has stayed the same since before COVID-19, it has to be Monday mornings. Even if I was tossing and turning all night, somehow in the morning, my bed would turn to the most perfect place and it would be so hard to leave. Whenever I had to get up early for school, I jokingly complained that school started way too early, and I often heard my peers echoing me. Surprisingly enough, our complaints actually have some merit, according to many doctors and scientists. The time we have on our clocks, social time, often doesn't sync well with a teenager's sleeping schedules. This isn't as much of an issue for most students at my high school, but students that have 0 periods, which are courses that take place before the start of school, struggle a lot to keep pace with the schedule. This made me wonder, why shouldn't my school make a change to shift 0 period courses until after school? To challenge this idea and guide my research, I put this change to the rotary 4-way test. Firstly, is it the truth that students are currently waking up too early? According to the CDC, school shouldn't start before 8:30 a.m. in the morning. While most students at my school start right at 8:30, those who have zero periods don't. In a regular year, zero periods start at 7:13 a.m., well over an hour before the CDC recommended time. But as my parents always say, why can't you teenagers just go to sleep earlier? As per the BBC, the social time that we have created, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, this often clashes with a teenager's internal biological time that is dependent on the sunrise. Therefore, going to bed earlier and waking up earlier can cause social jet lag, which leaves a person groggy and tired in the morning, as their internal clock is telling them to sleep. Therefore, I would say that yes, it is the truth that students are waking up too early for zero periods. Secondly, would this change to move zero periods later be fair to all concerned? Some of the more advanced art classes, such as string ensemble and jazz band, are during zero periods, along with important leadership classes such as student government. As usual, art classes are considered less important than science or math classes, and students who are taking them have to suffer a little bit. This change would make it so that students taking these classes would get the same amount of sleep as everyone else. Additionally, moving zero periods later in the day would eliminate accessibility issues presented by the earlier start time. For example, most city and school buses don't run that early, so students who live far away have to either bike or drive. And even if students choose to bike, there are safety concerns during, cold or slippery weather. And even if students have access to a vehicle, not everyone's parents can drive them. So this lack of transportation puts up barriers for students who want to take these courses. And so this change would make things much more fair to students who take these extra classes. Thirdly, will it build goodwill and friendships? The CDC states that students who lack sleep are more likely to have symptoms of depression, perform poorly in academics, and engage in high-risk behaviors such as smoking or illegal drugs. One of the biggest symptoms of depression and sleep deprivation is decreased social interactions. Whenever I'm tired in class, I only focus on getting through the day. On the other hand, students that are well rested are more focused and willing to engage in social and academic activities, which produces a more friendly and positive environment. I know that I would be less cranky if my zero period were actually during the day. In conclusion, a more allowing sleep schedule would increase social interactions and result in more goodwill and friendships. Finally, does this change benefit all concerned? I've already outlined how students would benefit socially and academically, but I think teachers would benefit just as much. One funny thing that has come out of my online schooling is that you can see at exactly what time teachers grade assignments. And I've seen these grades come in at like 1 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So I know that teachers are also stressed about a lack of sleep. They also have to be at school earlier to prepare for their lessons and get settled, which is much harder on the teachers who have a zero period. If zero periods were moved later, it would benefit teachers as well and might improve the overall quality of classes. The one thing that might be negatively impacted by this change is that there would be less time for extracurricular activities in the afternoon. Firstly, I think that students would be able to simply manage their schedules to fit in everything they wanted, especially if extracurriculars accommodated this with a later start time. A different solution is that schools could take a few minutes off of the 72-minute class periods to better fit the zero period courses at the end of the day. Of course, the drawback to this would be less academic time for other classes. Boo-hoo. Even though there might be some concerns about extracurriculars, I think this change would ultimately benefit students and teachers alike. So, through clear, truthful evidence and using the rotary four-way test, I hope I've convinced you why getting rid of the zero sleep in student schedules would be fair and beneficial while building goodwill for all concerned. Although my school has been doing an amazing job at finding ways to relieve stress during the pandemic, sleep is also an important part of a teenager's development that should be better supported. I hope that this change is one of the many things that will be different as my school starts heading back towards a new normal. So please let us hit the snooze button one more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Oop, let's see, am I muted? No, yeah. Thank you, Victor. Really appreciated hearing your speech. As you can see, members of the gallery, we've got all kinds of topics and issues, things that are national and global and things that are more local, although, you know, as I think Victor pointed out, the need for sleep for teenagers isn't just a local issue. And actually, zero periods are commonly held, not everywhere, but commonly held before school, even outside of Eugene. Okay, I'm just going to keep my eyes on our judges and see when they feel like they're ready to go. I see 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up. Okay, wonderful. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that all 4 of our speakers today are South Eugene High School interactors. So the idea of a 4-way test is not brand new to them, and it's great to see them taking their Rotary knowledge and using it in this way. So our next speaker is Walker Shado. And again, when you start, we'll start the clock.
Awesome. The year is 1955, and the United States and the Soviet Union are locked in a battle of wills known as the Cold War. At this time, both countries are fighting to get an upper hand on the other. One strategy that they both see is to look towards the stars. The strategy was simple. If we can put a missile in space, we can bring our competitor to their knees. This new drive for space exploration brought together millions of people to achieve the same goal. From it, we got satellites, rockets, and the International Space Station. However, it has also had its cost. Now, with it being such a point of pride and innovation for our country, I think it is important that we evaluate the integrity of such efforts. Furthermore, as a member of Rotary Interact who is considering a career in aerospace engineering, I feel that I should consider how space exploration stands up with respect to the Rotary 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all? First, let's ask the question, is it the truth? When asking this question, I want to take a look at the definition of truth under the wisdom of epistemology. According to the peer-reviewed paper by academic writer David Trunsolito, epistemology is the study of knowledge in relation to its validity. In his writing, he states that, quote, truth is a condition of knowledge, end quote. This means that without knowledge, you can't have the full truth. I would say this definition can be accurately used to evaluate space exploration. So now the question is, does space exploration further our knowledge? And I would say by definition of exploration, the answer is an emphatic yes. As a people, we are reaching for the stars to expand our knowledge and seek answers to the greatest mysteries of our time. Therefore, space exploration passes the test of truth. Moving forward to the next question, asking if space exploration is fair, this is a bit more complicated to answer. In order to address this question, we will need to look at the diversity and opportunities of the industry. According to Aerospace Industries Association, among registered manufacturers, 24% of employees identify as women, and less than 15% are minorities. At face value, these statistics are not representative of our greater population. It would appear to be unfair. However, these percentages are increasing every year, with movements like Black Lives Matter and new gender equity efforts highlighting this lack of diversity. Companies are continuing to make strong efforts to bring in more minorities and women. What's more is that universities are granting space industry-related degrees to more and more women and minorities each graduating class. So though the industry may have a long ways to go for me to definitively say yes to this question, I would say it is certainly well on its way. Coming off of that not as stellar evaluation, let's take a look at a question I think space exploration exceeds at fulfilling. The question is, will it build goodwill and better friendships? The answer, yes. Now let me explain why. Not only has space exploration brought together the US, but it has also brought together, at times, warring countries. Let's just take a look at the International Space Station. It's not the American Space Station. No, it's the International Space Station, and was a joint effort between the US, Russia, Japan, Europe, and Canada. In fact, the first crew to board the station was called Expedition 1 in 2000 and consisted of 2 Russian cosmonauts and 1 American astronaut. After hearing this, you may think, wait, Russia and the US? I thought the whole history of space exploration was based on the US and the Soviet Union, now Russia, wanting to defeat each other. And you would be correct. They didn't want to do that. However, what many people don't understand about the story is that this feud became a friendship and partnership that led to an orbiting home for humans of all nationalities, races, and ethnicities. This example clearly shows the types of goodwill and friendship space exploration can bring, and therefore answers a resounding yes to the third question of the 4-way test. Finally, to round out our assessment, we ask whether space exploration is beneficial to all concerned. Many people will think that no, it's not, and they have a point in the regard that for some, the experiment of space exploration cost them greatly. In fact, we've lost lives from this endeavor. For example, astronauts, American heroes, lost their lives in the early stages of the Apollo and Space Shuttle programs. However, the space program has also saved countless lives. An example of this is here in Oregon recently, the massive fires that burned over 1 million acres of land. Emergency responders were alerted to fires within minutes of their threat, as detected by satellites orbiting Earth. Because of these alerts, towns and cities were able to be evacuated, saving millions of lives. Now, imagine the situation without the aids of satellites. It would have taken hours, possibly days, for responders to detect and properly evaluate threatening fires, risking the lives of communities around the state. This same principle applies to floods, hurricanes, storms, and even earthquakes. So though it's a challenging answer to declare, I would say that space exploration as a whole is beneficial to all concerned, and that our world is safer because of it. In conclusion, let's break space exploration down to its core. Yes, it is the truth, and that it allows for new knowledge at every turn. Yes, it is well on its way to becoming fair to all concerned through expanding opportunity to a more diverse workforce. Yes, it builds goodwill and friendships between not just people, but among nations of the world. And finally, yes, it is beneficial to all concerned, saving countless lives at a moment's notice. Under these conclusions, I think I can confidently say that space exploration does in fact pass the 4-way test. I will leave you on one final note. As the person who started our journey into space, John F. Kennedy said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." Thank you.
Thank you, Walker. Some of us were actually around to hear Kennedy say that.
I'm very jealous.
Thank you. So we've had 3 of our 4 speeches now, and I'm just going back to my gallery view, and so I can see our judges. Okay, they're putting their thumbs up before I even ask. Great. Okay, so we have one more speaker, and that is Sarah Kahn. Let me, Sarah, reset my watch. And Sarah, again, as soon as you begin, I will start the time.
Really quickly, I do live in a household with many siblings. You may hear some noises.
No worries.
Okay. Have you ever been in a class where they talk about religion? The class gets quiet, it's filled with tension, people are squirming their seats just hoping that we don't get called on, and overall, nobody really wants to talk about it. This may be because most of us are just uncomfortable, but Are we becoming afraid of religion? Because in a sense, we're all sort of taught to be this way. Well, today we're actually going to be talking about religion, but more importantly, if selective exposure towards religion is beneficial or not. First of all, is this the truth? Do we have selective exposure towards religion? In my experience and generally in society, yes. From religion-exclusive schools to those who are religious narrowing their views to an extreme, to communities isolating and treating those of certain religions with xenophobia. As a Muslim hijabi in Oregon, I see this all the time. People refuse to talk to or even acknowledge those who are religious or of a different religion. But why is this? And is this at all beneficial? The answer can be found in why might religion make us uncomfortable and why might we be afraid of religion, as they tell us why we have selective exposure. The simple answer is the presence of sectarianism, or the widely assumed presence of sectarianism in religion. Sectarianism, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is defined as excessive attachment to a particular sect or party, especially in religion. The widely assumed presence of sectarianism in religious groups leads less extreme individuals to believe that those who are religious are biased to the point of inability to relate to or understand other religions or points of views related to religion. These people may also be deterred by the thought of religion due to the widespread large and small scale conflict between and even within many religions around the world. This conflict, which by the way, rarely does not come hand in hand with sectarianism. For example, the Troubles. From the 1960s to 1998, there was a Northern Ireland conflict in which the Catholic population and Protestant population in Ireland had different ideals for the future of their country. This, however, resulted in more than 3,600 deaths, according to BBC Seamus Kelters. Large and small scale conflicts like these are all over the place, and it is the only thing ever reported in regards to religion in the media. From the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the persecution of Rohingyas in Myanmar. These sorts of conflicts between and even within many religions deter people from exploring them. Furthermore, in today's divided society, where you can belong to a political party, religion, or even sect of a religion, we are experiencing a bigger divide between us and them, which leads us to question 2. Is selective exposure fair? No, because we are becoming more and more isolated from the them perspective, and we only ever listen to a side that endorses the same opinion as ourselves. We have literally become cocooned in our own opinion. We can see this in news station preferences. We only ever listen to one extreme side. And because of this, we can never think of a person as simply being a regular religious person. They're always an extremist. And this is where stereotypes, judgments, and fear come in. Another point of fear comes from being afraid of different cultures, as we often associate religion with the cultures that may practice them, though it is not always our fault for associating the two. The media plays a huge role in why we are becoming afraid of religion, as religion is often portrayed as a bad thing. Therefore, we have selective exposure towards it because we are afraid of it. Whenever something goes wrong in society because of a person's actions, we tend to say that they were an extremist. This may be the case sometimes, but it cannot possibly always be the same case. Not everybody can be an extremist. They could just be a bad person who happened to be involved in a religion or a religious group. Yet we always associate things, and the media has to associate things. At the end of the day, the media is a business, and they need those first clicks to generate revenue, and this means being ahead of the conclusion, even if they're wrong. And looking at this from the third test, will selective exposure build better friendships or goodwill? It will not. The not so subtle racism that comes along with these sorts of topics only build more barriers in society. Whenever an act of hate is committed, yes, we blame religion, only if it's a person of color. Otherwise, they have mental health issues and their belief system or values have nothing to do with the situation. We have seen this so many times. Every school shooting, every church bombing, they're done by people with mental health issues, such as the Nashville bombing or the mosque shooting in New Zealand even, compared to the terrorist Birmingham or El Church bombing done by people of color. With every news report and article read, the same message is repeatedly crammed into our brains. How bad and dangerous religion can be. How it is brainwashing people, and this act of hate is the norm, or what people with this belief system will want to do. This subconscious bias appears in our day-to-day life. After all, when we don't like or fear something, we are deterred by that thing. We don't want to get close to or even learn about certain religions because of this. And this appears in our day-to-day life with basic judgments. This is why we have selective exposure towards many religions, because we are all biased to some degree. And this is never beneficial to anyone concerned. Bias towards religion, which is caused by selective exposure, passes none of the 4-way tests. Whether you want to be biased in the way that you are or not, from the influences around you, biases begin to pile up. And eventually we have an entirely new definition of what we think about when we think about a certain religion. We have something so distorted from the original that is no longer the same religion. It is something entirely new and entirely wrong. We often say that all religions preach about the same thing, peace and love. But that's just it. They all preach about peace and love, but the only thing that we associate with religion nowadays is hate and violence. If you think about where you learned about a religion from, an article, an event, a class, a 20-minute TED Talk made from somebody halfway around the world, you probably don't know enough about it to be considered somebody who understands the religion. While you may think that you know about it, you probably know about events, not the actual values and practices associated with it, which is not enough to make proper judgment about it. What we need to do is look at the real original religion without any distortion, looking at it from a new mind free from previous judgments. Only then can we break the cycle of ignorance. So try learning about different values and points of view with a clear mind before making any judgments while listening to your usual news station. Try to listen from another source about the other side. Learn about religion from an actual religious person, not a TED Talk made from somebody halfway across the globe. Gain a human perspective on religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank all of our speakers now, and we'll thank them again later. And Carrie, I'm so glad you could, I know you're dealing with a lot of things at school right now, but I'm so glad that you could make it here today. And Zoe, I'm so glad you could come to hear your friend speak. I'm going to attempt now, Nancy and Grace and Susie, to put you in a breakout room. And then I'm going to try to join it for a little bit. And in the meantime, Chris will take the baton or the conch shell or whatever back and and continue with the meeting. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Well, let's see. I just opened the room.